I'm gonna flip mine over. Find a comfortable seated position. We will warm up with our pranayama. That is our breathing, our breath. And do a little bit of a quiet meditation. Set our intention before we get started. So I'm in Sukhasana, which is easy pose. It's almost like crisscross here on the mat. You're more than welcome to kneel if that's more comfortable for you. I'll even show you what I like to do is sit on a block. Brings the hips up higher than the knees a little bit so it's a little more comfortable. And just close your eyes. Belly is soft and full. Waist is lifted out of the hips. Rib cage is lifted up above the waist. Shoulders are stacked on top of the ribs. Slightly rolled back. The spine is nice and straight. The chin. In that interruption, I'm back now. I just didn't want the alarm to keep going off. Okay, so we're back in Sukhasana easy pose. Okay, and we were just straightening out the spine, straightening out the body, eyes closed, soft jaw. Mouth is slightly open, or jaw is slightly open to avoid clenching. And begin to find your breath. With every inhale, the belly expands first, then the ribs flare and fill up with air, and then finally the lungs. And then on the exhale, the air exits the body first through the belly, so the belly softens and goes flat. Then the ribs fall as the air exits the ribs, and then finally the air exits the lungs. And then on the inhale, we repeat the same thing, so filling up our belly. And on the exhale, breath exits by starting with the belly. And maybe this time you turn on your Ujjayi sound, which sounds like the waves in the back of your throat. On the inhale and even on the exhale. If you're not sure what that Ujjayi sound is, you might put your hand in front of your face like you're blowing into a mirror, trying to fog a mirror with your mouth open, and just practice breathing on your hand. It might look or sound like this. And then you just close your mouth as you do that sound. So we'll try a couple rounds together. Let's try to inhale for a count of 6, holding it for 3, exhaling for 6, and holding for 3. All together now. Inhaling, holding, and exhaling for 6. And hold. Inhale, hold, and exhale. And hold. Try 1 or 2 cycles on your own at your own pace, aiming to make the inhale and the exhale the same length. And as you continue your final breathing here, I want to thank you for being with me here today. Take a moment to set an intention for your class. Maybe it's time to do something for yourself. Maybe you needed a break from work or a break from everything around you in the house. Or maybe you dedicate this class to those who aren't able to work out today and practice today. Whatever it is, keep that intention on your mind throughout your class. Wonderful. So from here, we're going to get started in Shavasana pose today. I know that's normally how we end class, but we can start it that way too. So go ahead and lay back on your mat in Shavasana or corpse pose. Feel free to grab water at any time. It is warm where I am. So we're starting out on our backs. I'll go this way. So let your feet roll out slightly. feet are about hip width apart, hands, palms are facing up. Just move around your sits bones and your shoulder blades so you can get a nice comfortable position. Wonderful. And then we'll get started by taking a nice big stretch overhead, reaching from your toes to your fingertips. Good. And on your exhale, bring your hands overhead and see if you can slightly lift your feet. You may have to bend your legs to lift them off the ground, so we're engaging the abs. Good. On the exhale, lay down. Let the back arch a little bit while you extend here on the mat. On the inhale, round out the spine, pressing the lower back to the mat, lifting the shoulder blades and the arms, and lifting the feet if you can. You can also just bend those legs, but we're working on engaging the abs, going for a nice flat abs. Exhaling down to the mat, taking a slight arch and stretch of the spine. We'll do that one more time. Inhaling, lifting the knees, pressing the lower back and spine to the ground as we lift. Flattening out the abs, front to up and down and side to side. Then exhale back down to the mat. Very good. So hands come down to the side. Let's bring one toe, slide it up the leg, and then let that knee drop out to the side. So we're in tree pose. Tree pose on the ground. Something we don't do very often, but let's give it a try. Maybe your body feels a little uneven. That's all okay. Good. And then bring that knee up to the sky so that leg is bent. And then go ahead and grab the toe with your peace fingers. So your pointer finger and your middle finger there. And then lift that leg up a little bit, keep it bent, opening it out to the side in a one leg happy baby. So I'm opening up the hips here, keeping the leg bent, pulling that knee down towards the mat, out to the side of my ribs. And I'm using this other hand over here just to kind of brace this straight leg. If you feel like your back is uncomfortable or it's arching off the mat too much, just bend that base leg to help put the spine on the ground. Good. Hand off that lifted leg to the other hand, slightly pulling the leg over ever so slightly. This hip, we want it to stay on the mat so that we can stretch the whole side of the lifted leg, your IT band there. Wonderful. One more breath here. It's a slight stretch. It doesn't take much for you to feel it. And then you can release that leg back down to the mat, straightening it. This time the other leg bends, starting in tree pose. So we just let that knee fall out to the side, opening up the hip. It feels like I'm sunbathing here. I'm sure I'm getting a tan while we do this. Probably should have put on full body sunscreen. All right, so bring that bent knee up towards the sky, and then lift the leg, grabbing the big toe with yogi toe lock. That's our peace finger. And then just pulling that knee down towards the floor, kind of back behind your shoulder, opening up that hip and a little bit of the hamstring, using the opposite hand to just brace the straight leg and help keeping that hip on the ground. And then straightening your lifted leg, handing it off to the other hand, still in that yogi toe lock, peace finger, and just slightly pull it across the midline of the body. You'll feel it pretty quickly on the side of that extended leg. So nice. It's a beautiful day here in Houston. Hope you guys are enjoying it wherever you are. All right, so go ahead and bring that leg down to the ground. And we're going to rock and roll a couple of times. Maybe on your third time, see if you can come all the way up, crossing your legs and coming all the way up to a kneeling position. I'm going to turn around so I can get facing the correct way here. Lost my hair accessory. Very good. So now that you're on your hands and knees, go ahead and put one leg forward, and we're going to start with a 45-degree angle lunge. So it's a pretty slight lunge, really focusing on feeling it in this back leg. You don't have to come all the way down yet. Just really feel what it feels like to stretch it so slightly. Arms can come up overhead, shoulders down, and relax as you're looking up. hands come down in front of you. And we're going to, same arm, same leg will stay on the mat. The other arm lifts overhead, and I'm going to stretch sideways. So I'm now stretching in a bit of a side body stretch here. So again, same arm, same leg are down on the mat. So you have to really lean into the front hip on this stretch in order to touch the floor. Of course, you can always add a block. Good. Both hands come down to the mat. This time stretching on the inside of the leg. So both of my arms, I'm going to scoot back a little bit. So both of my arms are kind of pulling my body away like I'm a Spider-Man, and I'm really opening up this bent hip here. It's a variation of lizard lunge. You can either keep the arms straight, you can come all the way down on the forearms if that feels good. Go ahead and maybe even turn that front foot out so it's almost facing the corner of my mat. You can even straighten and lift the back leg if you like the way that feels too. So you're like kind of in a split looking thing. Whatever works for you here. I'm gonna try the variation where I pull the floor. One more breath here. Really getting deep into those hips. And on the exhale, go ahead and put your hands on the mat and then send that leg behind you in the kneeling position, and we'll do the other side. So the other leg comes forward. Starting first in that 45-degree lunge. You really, when you come off of that other leg, you really kind of feel how much and realize how much you've just stretched. So hands overhead, sweeping overhead, sitting into that, leaning into your front leg and feeling the stretch on the front of the back. Relax the shoulders if they've crept up. On the next exhale, hands come down to the mat. Same arm, same leg will stay on the mat. Other arm lifts. And begin to just reach over the side. So I'm kind of reaching over the side of the mat as opposed to reaching over the front. A lot of times we reach over the front like an extended side angle. This time you want to reach over the back of the mat, and that's when you're going to feel it in the side body. One more breath here. Both arms come down to the mat. In fact, both hands come on the inside of the mat. Let that knee kind of swing up open and out to the side, kind of like we did in tree pose to begin with. And then begin to pull yourself closer to the ground. That front leg may even roll up on the outside edge of the foot. You can straighten the back leg if you'd like. Forearms to the ground. Whatever feels good in this initial hip opener. One more breath here. Nice. And then pushing up on both hands, bring that foot back to tabletop position, and we're gonna slide on out into Sphinx pose, so that coming onto our belly, and then our hands come slightly in front of us, and we're balancing on our forearms. So my feet, tops of my feet are on the mat. I'm just resting some of the weight of my body in my forearms in Sphinx. Great way to relieve the back, particularly the lower back, and some of those discs. They tend to get compressed throughout the day. Good. Curl those toes under behind you. Squeeze the glutes, lifting the hips first off the mat, taking it a step further by straightening the knees, and you're in forearm plank. So first plank of the day. In our planks, we engage our abs, trying to flatten out the abs the same way we talked about when we first started our practice, pushing through those shoulders, pushing the floor away from us. Good. On the exhale, the knees and the hips come down to the mat. Taking a quick moment back in Sphinx again. On the exhale, we're going to go back into plank. So flip the toes, lift the hips, lift the knees. Good. Round out the back. One more cycle that way. Exhale, knees down to the mat. Inhale up into Sphinx. And then on the exhale, flipping the toes and pushing back into that plank pose. Good. From here, let's see if we can do a side plank. So ever so slightly, I'm going to lift one arm and then rotate onto the side. From here, you can put a knee down. This is a modified forearm side plank. Or you can stay lifted. I've also got my feet kind of in a tripod, which means they're separated. The full intensity of the pose would be stacked. So please take your modification. Really feeling it in the side body underneath. Good, arm comes back down. Passing through forearm plank, and we'll rotate to the other side. So straightening one arm, pushing the weight onto the other base arm, flipping into plank. Since we're just getting warmed up, I really like a modification in the beginning, whether it's your knee down or your feet in tripod. Honor your body, do what's right for you. I try to offer modifications. Okay, so we are back down in Sphinx one last time, just to relieve a little bit of pressure. Good, and let's roll back, pushing through tabletop here, and sit back on our feet. So curl those toes under, and let's sit back on our feet, kind of opening up our feet there, bringing our hands behind your back. I'm going to clasp my hands behind me in a shoulder and chest opening stretch. We tend to always clasp our hands the same way, so if you try to reverse your grip, meaning, putting your other thumb on top, it feels different. So give that a try maybe. Good, hands come down to the mat, flatten out the feet, and then sit all the way back on those heels, so you're now in Vajrasana or a hero pose as they call it. And we're gonna sit even further back if you can. So my hands are now behind my heels. The fingertips are facing my heels and my body. So I'm beginning to open up the shoulders, and you can even lift the hips up a little bit off of your heels. Head is lifting up, so I'm stretching out the top of my thighs. It's a pretty deep stretch on the knee. If it's not comfortable for you, I'll offer a modification. You can just do kind of a revised camel here up on the tops of your knees. So pick whichever one you like. I'll show this one. It's kind of a new one, so I'll go back into this pose. Or a new one in terms of one that I've done in our Warrior at Home series. Okay, hips come back down to your feet wherever they are, and then passing again onto tabletop. Let's stretch out our hands, externally rotating them out. Pinkies are on the inside. By hands, I really meant wrist, but hopefully you gathered what I was trying to say there. So I'm just rocking a little bit into my hands, stretching out the forearms, the muscles of the forearms. I'm going to flip the hands over now, thumbs on the inside. And then one more time, putting your hands on the mat. Let's just do a circle or two each way. So as I'm doing these circles, I'm gripping the mat with my fingertips like I have Spider-Man suction on my hands. The nail bed even kind of turns white, and that's how I know I've got a little bit of pressure in the fingertips as well. So slide on out into onto your belly, and we'll do locust. So in locust pose, this time we're going to bring our hands behind our back. And then on the inhale, you're going to lift up your chest, lift your hands off the small of your back. So I'm in that clasp we just did. And I'm also going to engage the glutes and lift the feet off of the floor. So total body, posterior side engagement. Think about squeezing your legs together. Your shoulders are rolled back here to open up the chest. And you just have a neutral spine in the head. So I'm looking at the ground. One more inhale. And then exhale, coming all the way down to the mat, releasing the arms, bringing the arms out in a T. From here, I'm going to shift my weight. I'm going to keep one arm in a T. I'm going to use the other arm to help shift my weight, rolling over to my side. So when I roll over to my side, I immediately feel a stretch in my base shoulder. If you've got a block nearby, you can even put your head on it to kind of rest it. That way you're not straining your neck. Good. To take it a step further, you can stay here. Alternatively, you can move your top leg out, and it becomes a stabilizer. My hips kind of roll forward, and I'm going to reach back and grab my leg. So I'm now stretching the base shoulder, and then as I've reached around and grabbed my base leg, I'm stretching the front thigh of that base leg. So a lot going on in this pose. And even the lifted top arm is getting a stretch as it reaches back. I've said it before, I love to multitask in yoga. It feels like a win when you can stretch and strengthen multiple things at once. Okay, so we're gonna release that, we're gonna reverse it. So slowly let the legs go. Come back to your belly where your arms are in a T. This time using the other arm to roll to the other side. So I'm stretching that shoulder here. You can stay here, or the top leg comes forward to brace, and the back leg bends, and then I reach around and grab it. And you want to kind of let the hips roll forward onto that front leg. That's how you really get into the front of the base leg. You have to kind of play with this pose. You'll feel it. You'll know it when you get it. Awesome. Before I get too comfortable on the floor here, let's go ahead and release. I'm going to move this block out of the way. And let's go into Cobra. So with Cobra, my hands are going to come to my ribs. My elbows are pointing up to the ceiling, and my shoulder blades are squeezing together. And on the inhale, I'm going to lift the chest. So I only come up a little bit. The feet stay on the ground. The rest of the body stays on the ground. And every time you inhale, it automatically causes your body to lift a little bit as your belly fills. And if you lift your hands up, your chest stays lifted. And exhale all the way back down to the mat. Forehead down, take a rest. On the next inhale, you can repeat that pose, or you can lift all the way up into up dog. So in up dog, everything lifts up off the mat, except the tops of my feet and my hands. I'm pressing away from the floor with my hands. Good. And I'm squeezing my glutes to help take some of the pressure off the low back. Nice. Go ahead and exhale and relax, bringing those knees to the ground, passing through tabletop here. Let's do our scapular push-ups, which means we just keep our arms straight, doing push-ups with our shoulder blades, letting them slide back and forth. So they're squeezing together as my arms come down, and then they're pressing away and sliding away from each other as I extend. Awesome job. Rotate those, curl those toes under, straightening the legs and lifting up the hips, pushing back into our first downward dog. So from here, just pedal out those feet a little bit, warming up and stretching the back side of our legs, the calf muscles, a little bit of the hamstrings. Think about lifting the tailbone to the sky here, and also pressing the ribs back towards the belly. And to keep a nice straight line, you'll want to look back at your feet or somewhere down at the mat. You can even do scapular push-ups here, focusing on that mobility. Great. Raise up on your toes and lifting your hips even higher, and then roll out over your hands, bringing the knees back down to tabletop. So from here, we're going to do a couple of push-ups to warm up for our chaturangas, and we do that by sending the hips forward, shoulders forward, and then doing a push-up. So elbows want to do about a 90-degree angle here. We'll do it another time. Wonderful. I'm going to show you also how to do this with the blocks. So if you have the advantage of blocks, you can kind of use them to help train where your shoulders go. So my shoulders go out past the hands, and then they bend, coming close to the blocks. Good. And as I'm down here, I'm really not putting too much weight on the blocks so I can lift up, but I am squeezing my side body. Awesome job. Okay, I know I made you guys hold that for a long time, so let's go ahead and come all the way down to the mat on your belly if you're not there already. And then we're going to go through our up dog and down dog. So exhale everything out. Inhale, taking cobra, or all the way to up dog if that is your practice. On the exhale, dropping the knees if necessary, passing through tabletop, curling the toes under, lifting the hips into downward dog. Good. From here, bring the heels together and the toes together so the feet are touching. And lift one leg. Lift one leg, but keep the hips square and facing down, which means your leg may not lift very much, and that's okay. Take this opportunity to push back through your hands, pushing the weight back towards the heels. You want the weight in your heels. Good. The lifted foot comes to the ground, touching the other foot, and they switch positions, some other leg lifts. So again, take this opportunity to push the floor away from you, back towards your feet, and see if the heel gets closer to the ground behind you. Nice, lifted foot comes to the ground, raise up on those toes in your down dog, and then roll out over your hands into plank. If plank is part of your practice, you can continue here, taking chaturanga. I'll show you what that looks like. Alternatively, you can drop your knees to the ground and you do the bent leg push-up as we did before. With chaturanga, you will drop down, same thing, 90 degrees, dropping about halfway before you come all the way down to the mat. I'm going to even show you what it looks like with blocks because I think this is a great way to train. So same thing, I'm in plank, my toes kind of push me forward, and then I come down over those blocks. Just helps me know about how far to go down. So there you go. Okay, so take your version. I'm going to come down to the floor. And then on the inhale, lifting up into cobra or all the way into up dog. Exhaling, lifting the hips, passing through tabletop if necessary, all the way back to downward dog. Good. On the inhale, I'm going to walk my feet up to my hands. So I'm now in my first forward fold. And I'm going to exhale, let everything out here. I'm going to bend my knees quite a bit and let my tummy rest on my thighs. I'm going to take this opportunity to do a spinal distraction, which means that we're just trying to create space in the spine. So I'm walking my hands out to the top of my mat, and I'm now pulling the spine kind of closer to the floor while my hips are going in the opposite direction. So rather than stretching out the hamstrings like we normally do in forward fold, I'm working on the back, at least this first time around. Okay, now walk those hands back as you relax. On your inhale, begin to walk your hands up your legs. And slowly, at the end, bring your head up and rest here in Tadasana, mountain pose. Awesome job. We're going to do sun salutation A, at least one time each side. We've already done half of it with up dog, down dog, chaturanga. We'll add in the beginning part. So find your space on the top of your top of your mat in mountain pose. Weight is evenly distributed between heels and toes, from left to right. Trying to find that nice straight spine. Take a breath, find your breath, calm it down. Very good. On your inhale, hands come up overhead as you reach up towards the sky. On the exhale, hands come down through prayer position as they reach towards the floor, slicing through the air, dropping the head all the way down. First forward fold. On the inhale, take a slight half lift. Hands can stay on the ground or come to the shins as long as you have a straight back. Exhale, back down into forward fold. Maybe you use your hands to pull you down a little bit closer. On the inhale, you can step back into a low lunge with one leg. Other leg goes to meet it, so I'm in plank. On the exhale, chaturanga, or drop the knees down and do that half push-up. Good. Exhale everything out. On the inhale, straight into up dog or cobra. Exhale through tabletop or all the way down to downward dog. Exhaling everything out. Good. On the inhale, same leg comes forward if you remember which one went back. On the exhale, other leg steps forward to meet it. Down and forward fold. Inhale, half lift up. Keep looking down to keep that straight spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale all the way up to Tadasana, hands coming up overhead. Exhaling it down to mountain pose. Other side. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, down to forward fold. Inhale, half lift up. Exhale, forward fold. I can probably tell we're moving a little faster. Inhale, other leg steps back. Other leg goes to meet it in plank. That's all one breath. Exhale, chaturanga. Knees come down if needed. Half push-up. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, back into downward dog, pushing the ground away from you. Good. Inhale, leg comes forward. Exhale, other one comes to meet it in forward fold. Crown of head goes down. Inhale, half lift up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, hands come all the way up overhead. Exhale, Tadasana, mountain pose. Wonderful job. That was Sun Salutation A. I'd like to run us through Sun Salutation B. I don't think I've done it yet in our warrior formats, but it's very similar with a couple of modifications. So go ahead and find your breath, find your balance in mountain pose. Palms facing forward. On the inhale, we're going to sit back into chair. So arms come over the head as we sit back into chair on the inhale. Good. And we'll hold it here for our first time through. Peek down at your feet. Make sure that you can still see your toes beyond your knees. If you can't see your toes, it probably means your knees are too far forward. You need to sit back into those heels. I even lift up my toes and wiggle them around to make sure the weight's not in them. So exhale, get a little bit deeper while you're here. Good. Inhale. On the next exhale, we come down into forward fold. Good. Inhale, one leg comes back into lunge. Nice. Other leg comes to meet it. Exhale, chaturanga. We know this, should feel familiar. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, lifting the hips into downward dog. Good. Inhale. That same leg comes forward if you remember it. Steps between your hands. This is the change. On the inhale, lift the hands up into either crescent or warrior one. Technically it's warrior one. I like to do crescent because it's easier on my knees. Please take your pick. So in crescent lunge, your heel is lifted up off the mat and your hips are perfectly squared. If you're doing warrior one, your heel is on the mat and your hips will want to turn just a little bit. Good. All right, so you're down low in this lunge to really feel and get the benefits of the pose. Inhale, take a little lift. Exhale, hands are coming back down to the mat. Guess what? Foot comes to the back, we're in plank. We're gonna take a flow. Exhale, chaturanga, knees down if needed. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, to the back of the mat, downward dog. Good. Inhale, other leg comes forward. In steps between the legs. Inhale, lifting up into lunge or warrior one, whichever one you want to do. Good. Gather your breath here. Inhale, take a little lift. Exhale, hands come down to the mat. We're going to flow. Steps back into plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog, cobra. Exhale, pushing back into downward dog. Good. Inhale, another leg comes forward. This time the back leg comes to meet it. Forward fold. We're rounding it out here. And then inhale, coming right into plank. I'm sorry, not plank, chair. You're holding it in chair. And then exhale, up to standing. Good job. That was Sun Salutation B. So I'm going to take a quick break here. Water asana. Grab some water. Hope everyone's doing fine. Hi, Teresa. Glad you joined. And hi, Yana. I'm going to check on my time and make sure we're doing okay here. Awesome job. Okay, so we're going to go through another sequence. We'll do a couple lunges here. So find Tadasana mountain pose at the top of your mat. And I'm going to step back with my right leg. It's going to look different on Facebook. But take that leg and step it way back. Again, I'm going to do, I tend to do a lot more crescent lunges because it's more forgiving on the back knee. But if you love warrior one, you just put that back knee down. It's a great stretch on the front hips, but please, I'll give you the option to choose. So you're in a high lunge here, but by high I mean come down low. Good. Big deep breaths here in the intensity of these lunge poses. Good. On the next exhale, we're going to open out the arms to the side, but to the side of our front leg. Now here, your hips are going to want to start doing funny things. The knee's going to want to wobble. Just check, make sure that knee is in line with the front toes. Where do we twist with our spine? With the middle back and the ribs. The lower back doesn't like twisting. The neck can twist too, but that's going to, that's not what we're going for here. We want the twisting with the ribs. So try to spiral those arms out. Good. On your next inhale, back arm circles up to the front, so back in crescent lunge, and then hands come to the mat. But that back arm, just let it keep circling up to the top, and I'm in revolved triangle. Good. So I also went ahead and put my back heel to the mat. That helps with the balance. So my back foot is turned out a little bit towards the side of the mat. And I'm using this base arm. Remember, we don't want the shoulder to collapse here. Press away nice and strong. And then use that base arm to help you spiral the spine open to the ceiling. Good. That base arm comes down, and we're going to begin to shift our weight to the front foot and towards the front of our mat. So I'm lifting the back leg. I'm now in kind of like a down dog split, or a standing split rather. And I'm going to lift my hands up into warrior three. If you'd like to do airplane arms behind you or prayer, that's fine too. Take your pick. And what we're going for is the back toe facing down to the ground. So I have a nice straight spine here. The base leg is spiring, it's wobbling, it's all okay. And we're gonna bend that base leg. And you can actually bend both legs if you want, just kind of crouch down, woo! And then extend it. Good. Now bring those arms to the ground. Back leg is still lifted. Here's where it gets awkward. Lift the back arm, and we're gonna revolve to the back. So I'm now in revolved Ardha Chandrasana, so revolved half moon. And the base leg is shaking. Just breathe into it as it trembles. Exhale, bring that hand down, bring the foot to meet it too, and you're in forward fold. Whew. Give some relief to that base leg. Maybe just move your hips around while you're here. Let the pull the crown of the head towards the ground. Using your ankles as leverage. You can bend your knees, it's okay. Good. And on the inhale, begin to bring your hips down to the ground, almost like your legs are coming parallel, and then lift the hands up off the ground, and you're in bear pose. So bear pose or like super chair, depending on what you call it. I like to have I got a pretty wide stance here, but at least shoulder width apart in my legs to really kind of get down into this bear pose. So chair is up here, bear is down here. It's almost like you're parallel to the floor. Hopefully you can catch that difference. Oh, one more breath here. You guys can do it. I know it's tough. It's tough for me too. Exhale it out. On the inhale, just come on up to standing. And then on exhale, bringing those hands back down to prayer position. Nice job. Let's do the other side. If you lost your breath a little bit like I did, it's okay. Just take a moment to regather it. Close your eyes for a minute, quiet, calm your breath, and then take that big step back into that high lunge, beginning low into that high lunge, as I like to say. Option to take warrior one. Good. From here, opening out the arms and opening out to the side. What helps here is to pull that back leg, that back hip forward in the front hip back. So if you can kind of see that, you want to squeeze the legs together. That'll supercharge the pose as well. Reaching with those arms to both sides. This is a very difficult pose for me too. Good. Bring that bottom hand down or back arm down and up, and you're back into crescent. And then bringing the hands to the top of the mat or down by your feet. And then that arm continues to circle right up into revolved triangle. So from here, you can put that heel down. Helps you balance a little bit more. Use that base arm to help you spiral the spine. Take this moment to gather your breath. So we're about to go into the balance section. Good. Lifted arm comes down to the ground as we begin to shift forward into a bit of a warrior three with our arms down. When you've got your balance, lift those arms. Hands can be extended out front or prayer. Take a breath. On your exhale, begin to bend the base knee and bend the back leg in kind of a curtsy. It's not very pretty, but it works. Good. Go ahead and extend straight. Good. And then hands come down to the mat so my back leg remains lifted. And now I'm going to raise that hand again so I'm in revolved half moon. And let the trembling continue. You can also use blocks here. I forgot to show you that earlier. So if you've got a block, this is a great one for revolved triangle. Good. Hands come down to the ground. Feet join it. So you're here in a forward fold. Use this as a moment to relax. So we're going to go up into bear pose in a moment here. One more deep inhale and exhale. On your inhale, begin to swoop the arms up, sitting the hips down and back. So there I am. I'm in kind of that tabletop position of bear. I like to say that if you need to bring your arms down here, that's good too, as long as you get your hips down. I really want your hips down when you do this. Good. More breath. And then inhale as you stand back up. Exhale into Tadasana, mountain pose. Wonderful job. Open up those hips in a wide leg, side to side on your mat. Put your hands on your hips if you like, and then use them to help hinge your hips forward. So my feet are facing straight ahead of me at this point. I'm going into a wide leg forward fold. Hands come to the mat. And maybe we bend over to one side. Lifting the toe of my straight leg. You can send it weight over to the other side. Kind of a partial Skandasana pose here. Shifting our weight back to the other side. If you'd like to take full Skandasana, you would just come all the way down to the ground. You can even sit on a block here as well. Or you just hold it up a little higher. One more time to the other side. Holding it with your hands or coming into full Skandasana if that's part of your practice. Good. Weight back to the center. Head comes towards the crown or towards the mat. Hands clasped behind you. We'll do one more shoulder stretch while we're down here. So the hands are now lifted off my back. They're almost pulling me forward. Hands come to the mat, beginning to lift the body back up to standing. Nice. While you're here, front foot faces the top of the mat, back foot continues to be where it is, and we're going to bend that front leg down into Warrior Two. Arms come out in a T, and your Dristy is open over your front middle finger. So take a peek down at your alignment here. You want a nice straight line. You want your heel, your front heel, in the middle of the back of the foot. If you were to peek behind you, you would not want to see your derriere hanging out back there. So check that you're not leaning over into this pose. I'd rather you be up higher, less bent, and then slowly working down over time, eventually coming down to that parallel position. Let's lean forward on the front arm into extended side angle. So I've leaned over on the front arm, and then my back arm is extending overhead as I look towards the sky. The sun finally set behind the houses, and it feels amazing now. That sun was worth it to get to this point. So bring those hands down while we're shifting to the back side. So as I pass through center, my front foot now comes to the side of my mat. The back foot now flips to the front of the mat because I'm going to come right up into Warrior Two on the other side. Taking a moment to check your alignment. Knee is in line with the front toe. Nice straight line. Hips are right underneath you. Arms are in a T, looking out to the front. On your next breath, front arm comes to lean on the front leg. I think a fly just bit me. And come into extended side angle. Use that front arm to really open up the chest here so that you can look up at the sky. Good. On the next inhale, coming back into Warrior Two, and then up into the center here, and eventually finding our way up to Tadasana at the top of the mat. Wonderful job. Take a water break if you need it. I sure do. All right, we'll do a couple more balancing poses. Checking in on my time. I think we got time for this. So I'm going to face you guys in Tadasana, but feel free to get comfortable on the top of your mat if that works for you. Shift your weight into one side and lift one leg, bringing it as close as you can up to your chest. I'm just gripping my shin here, trying to find that balance on the base leg, finding a point in front of you that's not moving to stare at. That will help your balance. Maybe roll out your ankle while you're here. Good. Next, opening up the leg to the side for a little hip opener. And if this feels good to you, you can hold it here or you can take tree pose. So a tree pose, you just bring that lifted leg in to your inner thigh. You can even lower it down here so that it's at your ankle or your calf, just as long as it's not pushing into your knee. I would avoid the knee there. So it's either get it up here pretty high or keep it a little bit lower towards the ground. In tree pose, lots of options for arms. Here in prayer position, taking a mudra overhead, arms open in a V, cactus, take your pick. I kind of like this cactus arms here because it allows me to squeeze my shoulder blades in the back and kind of relax the shoulders, the front of the shoulders a bit. Awesome. Hope you guys are doing well here. I feel it. I know you are. Good. Don't forget to breathe while you're here. And on your next inhale, go ahead and relax, bringing that leg down. We'll shift our weight to the other side, lifting that knee, rotating the foot. And then opening up the leg to the side. It helps when you open up that leg to also extend the opposite arm so you've got a counterbalance. Forgot to mention that earlier. Then let's take tree pose. Pick your hand position. Maybe do a different hand position this time if you'd like. Notice the difference in how it feels from when we started with tree pose in the supine position. It's a little bit more work when you are standing, right? And as always, if you fall, just get back into it. You're probably not going to fall all the way to the ground. So just pick up that leg and try it again. Good. And exhale and relax, bringing it back to the ground. Nice. Roll out your hips or your ankles while you're here if that feels good. And we're going to go ahead and make our way down to the mat as we get pretty close to finishing our practice. I'm going to take arms overhead and then bringing them down to a forward fold. And I'm going to step back into a plank. And I'd like you guys to try one more thing for me here. We're going to try you can do side plank, which would just be simply lifting into plank. You could go back into forearm plank. So pick which modification of plank you want to do and see if you can try to do tree pose in the plank. So I'm going to lift into plank and see if you can do a tree pose. It's pretty tough. Just want you to give it a try. If it's not happening today, don't worry about it. Good. Hand comes down, try the other side. Maybe I'm going to try it on my forearm this time just to kind of see if it's easier. Yeah, it's a little bit easier on your forearm. Forearm plank is a really great pose to help us build strength in your planks. So come on down to the ground here. Find your way as gracefully as possible down to the mat. And from here, I'm sitting on my sits bones. I've got my legs bent so my knees are up to the sky. Palms are on the mat, fingers facing toward me. I'm gonna lift up into tabletop pose. Or upward tabletop, reverse tabletop, not sure what it's called, I forgot. But either way, lift up those hips. You'll really feel it in the front of the shoulders. Good, exhaling, bringing the hips down to the mat. From here, straighten your legs and open up into a wide straddle. And then you can bring your arms to a T and then lift over to, or shift over to one side. Grab that big toe if it helps, and then bring that other arm overhead. So another nice side body stretch, also stretching into the base leg. Every exhale, you want to sink a little bit more. Inhale, coming back to center. Exhale, leaning over to the other side. So my hand grabs my foot and I bring the hand overhead. Notice how you're probably a little bit uneven. One side's always or generally a little tighter than the other. Last exhale, take it a little bit deeper. Inhaling back to center. Nice job. Go ahead and bring both legs back to towards the top of your mat again, or to one side of your mat. I'm going to bend my feet, bring my hips closer to my heels, laying back on my mat. Palms come to the mat. From here, I'll take bridge pose. So on the inhale, I squeeze the glutes and lift them up off the mat. And then if I can, I'm going to adjust my shoulders underneath me so I can lift a little bit more. The chin is tucked here. Please don't look at me if you can avoid it. I'd rather you just look up at the sky, listen to my voice. I'm sure you're doing it right. Just lift as much as you can with your hips, and that's all you need to know. Good. Exhale, bringing the hips down to the mat. Bring the arms out in a T. And let the knees fall out to one side for a spinal twist. So knees fall to one side and your head can look the other direction. That really gets the full twist of the spine. On the inhale, bringing the legs back to center as they pass through center, falling to the other side this time. And the head twists around to look in the opposite direction. Good, bring those knees back to center. And for one final stretch, let's do Happy Baby. We started with half Happy Baby at the beginning. So this time we're gonna grab both legs. So my hands go in and grab the tops of my feet. And I'm gonna use my hands to pull the knees to the mat. Not the most graceful looking pose, of course, but wonderful benefits. So when I take this pose, I like to push my lower back and my hips to the ground as opposed to curling up. It just feels better on my back. You can even rock side to side. Good. Go ahead and release that pose. Legs come back to the ground. I'd like for you to find your Shavasana. So go ahead and lay back on your mat. Let your feet fall slightly open. They're hip width apart. Toes are falling open. Hands facing the sky. Nice and open and relaxed. Move around your sits bones and your shoulders so that you're in a nice, comfortable position. Scan your body for any areas of tightness or tension or discomfort. And if you find something, take in a nice inhale, and then exhale, sending your breath to that body part, begging it to just relax. And do that a couple times. So your breath is nice and easy now. Go ahead and close your eyes if they're not closed already. Jaw is slightly open, so you're not clenching. And enjoy the music of the ice cream truck passing through the neighborhood. If you heard that ice cream truck, maybe it brings some sensation of joy, happiness. Hopefully it brings nice memories of your own childhood. Maybe it makes you smile. Just lay here quietly and enjoy your final moments here. Wherever you are, begin to bring your awareness back to the mat, back to your body, wiggling your toes, wiggling your fingers, and begin to bend your legs slightly and rolling over to one side. Now lay in this fetal position, using your head, your arm as a pillow. Enjoy this one final breath and moment of relaxation here on your mat. And then press your body up using your arms, coming back to a seated pose, Sukhasana. You can take Padmasana, lotus pose if you'd like. And hands are on the knees, nice straight spine. Hopefully this pose feels a lot better now than it did at the beginning of your class, now that your body is nice and stretched out and relaxed. Thank yourself again for coming today. Show some gratitude towards your body for holding you up through this practice. Whatever you did in practice today, it was perfect. It was just what you needed. So bringing your hands into prayer position, bringing them to your third eye center. Excuse me. Third eye center with your fingers at your forehead, representing open thought. And then bringing your hands to your heart center, representing compassion and open love. The light in me salutes the light in each and every one of you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. It was a lovely day here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions about anything we did today, I'm happy to answer those questions. I know I can't see you, but I am happy to help you in any way that I can, just as I normally would if we were in a studio. I would always be here after class or before class to help you out. So hope you're wonderful, be well, and if you'd like, I'll see you on Saturday for our next class. Thank you, have a good evening.